What's up YouTube, Jeff back again, and today I'm going to show you guys some hidden features on your Galaxy S23 Ultra. If you guys are really into customizing your phone or you just got a Samsung device here with the S23, subscribe to the channel. I do all kinds of customization. I focus on Samsung only on my channel, and I got a lot of great stuff coming. Today we're going to get into things that are really buried in the settings by Samsung, and there's a lot of those that are really helpful things that you might want to enable, but Samsung buries pretty deeply, and I'm going to talk about that today. So let's get right into it. And the first one is one that I think is super important for people to be aware of, and it's actually inside the battery settings. So if you go inside the settings and you go to battery and device care, when you get into, there's actually a couple in here we're gonna look at. So if you go into battery, you'll see obviously your power saving, the graph that shows you your usage, and then you'll see your apps down here that are using the most battery. But if you go here, there's something that's important to look at called background usage limits. Now, this basically, by default, puts unused apps to sleep. And while that does save battery life, it's important to be aware that if you choose this option, you can restrict yourself from getting real-time notifications for certain applications like Gmail, social media, etc. And so you can see under here, you can add an app that you never want to sleep. So for instance, if I never want Gmail to go to sleep because it's an app that I don't want to be restricted, then I can add that right here. Now, you'll notice that I don't actually have the option to add Gmail there, and that's because if you go back to the previous menu down here, where it says more battery settings, I choose to turn off the adaptive battery, and then you can also turn off the ability to optimize the app's battery usage on a per app basis. And I'll show you guys where that is in a second. Now, again, keep in mind that this will decrease your battery life. I've still been getting about 6.5 to 7 hours screen on time, even disabling these settings. I always do it because I want real-time notifications. You can also change another important thing here, which is the performance profile from standard to light. If you do turn off those optimization settings, turning on the light profile can also help. If you're not a gamer or you're not doing a really intensive task, this might be a good idea to switch the light profile on. Now, if you're going to be keeping your phone for a long time, you can also turn on the protect battery feature, which will allow you to only limit the maximum charge to 85%, which will also make sure that your phone's battery's longevity is kind of extended for a long time. Now, that's only if you're going to keep the phone for, say, more than 2 years. If you upgrade every 2 years, it really doesn't make a difference. I don't notice any huge battery degradation over time. So that's there. Wireless power sharing is also in here if you want to charge up your headphones or something by putting them on the back of your phone. That's something kind of fun to show off, especially to your friends who are iPhone users because they don't have that feature. But definitely look at the background usage, choose what you want to sleep, never sleep, and make a decision. My suggestion is social media, apps like that are sometimes good to put here, but there's also another place where you can edit this from, and I'll show you guys where that is as well. So if we go back over here and go back into the main settings, and you go to apps, and then go down to the app Gmail. I just talked about Gmail. You'll notice right here that in here, you can also get into the battery settings, and you could go here and you see how it's unrestricted. So I chose this to be unrestricted from this menu, which basically makes it so that I get notifications. Now, if I choose optimize and we actually go back to the battery menu, you guys will see here that now, if I go back into the battery, you can see Samsung really buries these settings very, very deeply. I go back into this list here, you'll notice that Gmail is now an option to never put to sleep. So basically it's one or the other. You can either choose it from that menu or you can choose it from here and then never put to sleep Gmail. I highly recommend it if you want real-time notifications, but it will definitely drain a lot more of your battery, so just keep that in mind. Now, the next thing is something that's also in the main settings, and I actually talked about this in a previous video, which is how to get individual notification sounds for your apps. Now, I made a video on how to add the custom notification sounds, and I'll show you guys that in just a second. But the problem is people often want individual sounds for each app. So if you go into sounds and vibration, you'll see here, if you go down, you've got ringtone notification sound. So if you go to notification sound, I showed in my previous video, which I'll link below, how you can add custom sounds. Basically, you download the sounds that you're interested in, and then you're going to use a file manager to place those files into the notification sound folder. So that will be linked below. But what if you want to change the notification sound for each individual app? Samsung makes this actually pretty difficult. Again, buried very deeply. You have to go back to settings and go to apps. Find the individual app that you want to change. I'll do Instagram this time. So let's say I want to change Instagram. If I go into Instagram and I go down to where it says notifications, actually at the very top, go down to where it says notification categories, and then choose a category. So let's say if I'm going to get a DM on Instagram, I want to change this notification sound. So I can go down here to where it says sound, tap on this, and then I can change this to any sound that I have in my list. Now you'll notice the only one I can choose right now is cha-ching because I don't have any others in my folder. But if you follow my tutorial in the previous video to add custom notification sounds using your file manager, then all of those sounds will appear here. Now, the nice thing is, but also somewhat frustrating, if you want to change it, you can change it for each individual action within the app. So Instagram Direct could be the cha-ching sound, then I can change this to another one. The only problem is you can't, because of the way the notification channels work in Android, you can't just change all of them to the same exact sound for Instagram, which is actually what I would prefer to do because look at how many channels Instagram has. There's like a million different Instagram features now, IGTV, whatever, shopping drops, all these things I don't use. I don't really want to make those individual sounds because I don't need to know about those individual things. I just want post notifications. You could actually turn those off, which might actually be even the better idea. Turn off the notifications you don't care about. Like you don't care about IGTV, you don't care about shopping drops, you don't care about that stuff. Turn on mentions, turn on DMs, turn on post, whatever. But you can change your sounds on a per app basis. Go through and do it for each app that you're interested in. Probably social media and your email apps are going to be the ones that you're the most interested in doing this, but you can change pretty much whatever you want there. The next one is an S Pen tip. So with the S Pen, I think one thing that people really like about it is that it's, right there, quick, easy to pull out. I like to use it to navigate around the phone, but there is a really easy way to access your favorite app that you use with the S Pen, and you can basically press this button and double tap, and it'll open your favorite app. I have it set to open Instagram. You see how I double tap, open Instagram right there. Very simple to do. You can do this by going and downloading GoodLock. I've talked about GoodLock a lot on this channel. GoodLock is Samsung's customization suite of applications that they have for Galaxy phones. It's in the Galaxy store. I'll link it below. It is region restricted, so if you don't live in a country where it's supported, then you have to use a VPN to get it. But then you can download the GoodLock module called Pentastic. Once you get GoodLock, you'll be able to download it from the store by go to store there. Pentastic lets you customize your S Pen. There's a lot of hidden features in here. I'm going to make a full video on this because there's a lot to talk about. But the one I want to talk about in this particular video is the double tap shortcut. So you can actually make it so that you can double tap to get any app or any S Pen shortcut like Smart Select, Screen Write, Live Messages, etc. But I like the fact that I can open any app. I use Instagram the most when I'm just browsing with my S Pen because I like to crop out photos and then share them on Twitter or whatever when I'm doing research for a video or something, grab some stuff for inspiration. That's what I use it for the most in my personal time. You can also set it different profiles at different times, which is something that I also really enjoy being able to use it for. Now, like I said, there's a lot of other useful options inside Pentastic. You can change the sound that your S Pen has when you remove it. You can actually preview those sounds, and you can also change the pointer. So, it was Valentine's Day. If I wanted a heart as my pointer, I can now have a heart as my pointer, and you can change the default S Pen menu. You guys see I've got this line menu. So if you look at my menu right there, you can do that very simply. Great feature, and one that most people don't know about because it's buried inside Pentastic. Now let's talk about the camera because there are two hidden features, and I mentioned these in a previous video, but some people will have not watched it, so I'll just briefly mention. Inside the camera, if you go over to the more options, you'll notice there's this mode called Expert RAW now, which allows you to shoot photos in RAW mode. However, there's a little download button there by default because this is actually a separate app. You see now when I tap it, it opens an all new app, which is Samsung's Expert RAW camera app that lets you shoot in RAW mode, that you can pull out extra color, more detail of your photos by editing them in Adobe Lightroom. So what it'll actually do is it'll prompt you when you do that to go to the Galaxy Store, and when you go to the Galaxy Store, you can search for Expert RAW, and go ahead and download Expert RAW, and then you'll be able to use it from within the camera. Same thing goes for another setting called Camera Assistant. If you go into the main settings here in the camera at the very top and scroll down, you'll see I have this new menu called Camera Assistant. This is also a separate app, which is a Samsung app, but you do have to download it from the Galaxy Store. So if you go back to the Galaxy Store, download Camera Assistant, now you'll have all these extra options. Some of them are amazing options, like being able to continue choosing which lens is actually used instead of being auto-selected for you. It speeds up the shutter speed if you're having shutter lag. There's a lot of great options in here, and I talked about that in my previous video where I went through and did a bunch of settings changes. You guys can check that one out below. The next hidden feature is something that a lot of you probably didn't notice when you first got the phone, but it is an important one. Let me actually make sure I don't have any people's numbers here on the screen. If you go into the phone settings, so these are the settings for the phone, Bixby text call is a feature I keep mentioning because people are not used to having this on the Galaxy phone. I know people hear Bixby and they don't want to use it, but this is basically like Google's call screen, which allows you to have Bixby answer the call for you, and you can basically feed some text responses to the person on the other side of the line, and you don't have to answer. So if you get a lot of spam calls like I do, you can have it answer and make sure that it's a legitimate call before you continue taking the call. Because spammers these days use phone numbers that start with your actual area code so that they actually don't have to worry about you not picking up the phone. Like they'll use your area code to make sure they get it, and then they'll just go ahead and continue if you pick up. But if you don't pick up, if you use something like Bixby, in my experience, they don't call you back because they know you're using automated tool to screen it, and then they're a scammer. They know you're never going to pick up, so they don't really end up calling you back. It's a very cool feature. You can choose the voice that you use. You can do quick responses to kind of decide what you want to feed responses as you're seeing the call. And you can also get a transcript of the call that's saved to your device after you finish with the call. Up next is changing default apps. So if you go into the settings menu and you go back to that apps menu we were looking at earlier, if you go up here, you can change the default apps. And some of the apps that you might want to change defaults for is the browser, caller ID, and spam app. If you install one, you can do that. But of course, with Bixby text call, like I just showed you, you don't need to. The home app, if you want to change a custom launcher, you can change your phone app. Like if you want to use the Google phone launcher contacts, you can use that. And SMS. And actually, it's kind of weird. The Samsung phone comes with Google messages as the default right there. But I like the Samsung messages a little better these days, so I use that. You also get some features with the S Pen, the Samsung keyboard integrated as well. So that's a nice thing to have as well. Now, opening links down here, you can choose which particular apps will open with links, and you can also play around with your instant apps. You can choose to upgrade web links here. They may be an option in instant apps instead of a browser when available. So you can choose this option if you want and kind of make your experience using web links a little bit better. Now, the other thing you can do is if you want to change the keyboard, that's actually in a different setting. So if you go down here where it says language and keyboard inside general management, this is where you can change the keyboard. So you see here, Samsung keyboard settings, you go to keyboard list and then change the default keyboard. Now, I don't actually have another keyboard installed, but I do switch back and forth between the Samsung keyboard and Gboard, both of which are very, very good. I probably will make a video on Samsung keyboard tips and tricks as well as Gboard tips and tricks for those of you who prefer Google's keyboard. But being able to change your default apps is certainly a great thing, and it's one of the things that makes Android different than iOS. And you can basically change it to whatever you want from the Play Store if you have a particular app that you really enjoy using. Going to end this off with a couple of One UI 5.1 specific hidden features. The first one is Eye Comfort Shield. So if you go into your quick toggles, Eye Comfort Shield, you can long press on the quick toggle, go into the menu here, and there's a new option for One UI 5.1, which is called Enhanced Comfort. Now I'll turn it off so you can see the difference. It actually improves the tones and contrast to make it a little less jarring because, of course, Eye Comfort Shield is a blue light filter, and so it sometimes makes your screen look a little yellow. So by adjusting the color tones and the contrast, it makes it look a little less yellow and a little more usable at nighttime. So I highly recommend when you're using Eye Comfort Shield, you turn this on because I think it is a great option. And then of course you can, when you turn it off, it'll automatically keep this feature on so that when you switch Eye Comfort Shield back on, the enhanced comfort will stay enabled. One UI 5.1 also adds a new quick toggle. So if you go up here and you click on the three-dot menu and go to edit buttons, there's a new quick toggle called take screenshot. And of course, you can add this down here and put it in your main toggles. And once you do it, if you long press on this, it actually gives you several options for how you can go about taking screenshots. And this button is very helpful because now you can easily get to all this information, choose the format you want, hide status and navigation bars when you are in fact taking a screenshot, and even delete after sharing from the toolbar. This is a really nice feature because if you want your phone to stay free of clutter, if you take a lot of screenshots like I do for tutorials, you really don't want to keep those screenshots accumulating. You can turn this feature on and then you won't have them all piled up in your gallery, which is indeed a great feature. Now, the other thing you can do is if you go down here into advanced features, you can also change where screenshots are now saved. So if you go here, you can now change where you save your screenshots other than the default folder. This is also a great way to reduce clutter because you can save it in a separate folder that's separate from your gallery folder, which is the default DCIM, digital camera images folder. And that's a great feature that'll also allow you to reduce clutter on your device. You can do the same thing for screen recordings. If you record a lot of screen recordings and videos like I do, again, for tutorial purposes, that may not be relevant to everyone, but it is indeed a great one. And down here, you can also play with the selfie video size, which in my opinion is pretty awesome. These features are fantastic for those of us who like to do tutorial videos with picture-in-picture. Lastly, there is an amazing feature for tap and grabbing images from photos in the Samsung Gallery for One UI 5.1. If you go into the Samsung Gallery in One UI 5.1, you can tap and hold on any object in the image, and then it will allow you to basically save that separately. So you can see here I've got this picture and I've got my son here removed from the photo. It now gives me the option to copy it, share it, or save as an image. If you save it as an image, it's basically going to have what appears to be, or what will look like, a sort of transparent photo. If we scroll up to the top, you'll see that right here, what we have is the transparent image of my son that I've basically extracted. Now, whether or not it gets exactly what you want is up for debate. In this case, not only did it pull my son out of the photo, it also pulled his dinosaur he was playing with and part of our futon, which is our couch. And so that is something that may be a little unlikely that you might not want in that particular photo, but it does a pretty good job, and I'm sure Samsung will do a better job over time. I just had a call coming in that I'm sure was a spam call. I probably should have used Bixby text call to go ahead and screen that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification icon for future videos like this. Again, please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy Samsung content. If you're new to Samsung especially, I do a lot of tutorial videos. I have a lot more content coming up on the Galaxy S23 Ultra. I really appreciate you checking this out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.